Yeah, just for either one of you. My only really exposure to like Russian culture was like my very strict Russian piano teacher. Is classical music like a big part of Russian culture also?
Yes.
Like listening to it and like learning.
Yes, it is, and I would say that even for people who know nothing of classical music and can't play an instrument, it is still something that is held in very high esteem. So you know, if you don't know how to do it, well, that's you're deficient in that way. But nevertheless, we hold it in high regard. So yeah, so it's very important.
My question is to Tal. It's very clear that you carry the heritage of the family. Are you going to pass that on?
I hope to, God willing. I think about it a lot, and I do think that I would like my children ideally to speak Russian, and even though, in a way, like I think growing up between the Russian community and the Orthodox community, I've had to deal with a lot of balancing, and I would like to continue the balance. Like I do envision myself, as Danny was saying, you know, teaching my children classical music. I think is very important. I think art is important. I think literature is important. For, you know, Tolstoy is one of my favorite authors, and that's still very much within me. That's just me personally. I don't think most teenagers feel like that, but I do hope to.
My question is actually sort of similar to Shivvy's, but more for your dad. As the parents of this next generation, is there like not disappointment or whatever, but is it like you guys just know in probably 2 generations your great-grandchildren, your grandchildren will not speak Russian, and that's okay? Like, we're just American Jews, or is it so important to pass it on to your children that like Minnie Avital saying she wants her children to speak Russian? I'm sure that makes you very happy. But would it not surprise the parents if they said, no, like my kids don't speak Russian, that's not a big deal?
Well, I would say that that's probably real. You're right, and that even if they speak very fluent Russian, I mean, to expect that it's going to last for generations is probably.
Not all of our kids speak Russian. So.
Yeah.
That's right. So these things.
I guess that's
GK with A.
She can read but not speak.
She understands.
She understands.
She can speak.
Good start for you.
No, they prove them wrong, speak Russian.
Do you want to speak it? Do you want to speak Russian?
Kind
I have a question. Both my parents are South African, and they both speak Afrikaans, and they both vehemently did not want their children to speak Afrikaans. They view South Africa as the oppressor, and they don't. And in South Africa, to my knowledge, was nowhere near as oppressive as Russia was, nowhere even close. So, I'm very curious where this. I feel like Russian Jewry still holds Russian culture with a lot of respect. Even though it was a Jewish culture, they really admire the Russian way of life, despite the fact they oppress them so heavily. What is it about the Russian culture that makes it so attractive?
You guys will talk about that later.
I find that to be a legitimate question. I guess we sort of segregate in our minds. All right. So I think to most people familiar with Russian culture, certainly us, the viewpoint is that, well, if you were really a cultured Russian, you would not be oppressive. So that's the attitude. So oppression was something that we often associated with actually being uncultured. So it was people who were not well connected with Russian culture itself. But that was the viewpoint we held. It was not always true. There are I understand Dostoevsky was known to be a virulent anti-Semite, so these things happen. So, but we have to deal with it all the time. I mean, there are famous scientists and Wagner, and there are fights over what should be played Wagner and shouldn't play. Or Solzhenitsyn. He was very controversial. He died. But,
Thank God.
anyway, so there are examples of prominent people who have accomplished great things, and yet we're anti-Semites. But we still somehow segregate accomplishment in cultural sphere from oppression.
You mentioned that a lot of the Russian friends are based on Clippy, they kind of stay together. I think that's because they didn't necessarily go to a Jewish school. I understand in public school, they have to kind of stick together because, you have all the African Americans in one group, you have all the, there's just a lot of different culture mix they want to stick together. But if they would have gone to a Jewish school or to a private school, they would have created more. I mean, I don't even hear yourself. Did you go to a Jewish school?
Yeah, I went to a local yeshiva in Highland Park. I went to Berea for high school. Pretty standard path. I was in high school the only, I didn't have any, I think there were 2 other Russian girls or something in the school. We didn't really, weren't really friends. In elementary school, there were a lot of families from the Caucasus Mountain,
Mountain Jews.
The Mountain Jews, yeah. They're Sephardi, very, very different culturally, but also spoke Russian. And they were coming into America at that time, and I remember, a lot of times I was paired up with those kids, boys and girls of different ages, and I was asked to translate for the teacher, for the kid, and be in between, kind of. But I don't think I wouldn't have chosen to be friends with them, really. Actually, I think in elementary school, until high school, I didn't really want to discuss it. I was very into letting everyone know that I was born in New Jersey, despite the fact that English is not my first language. And I think only in high school I became more in touch, I guess, with my heritage. So yeah, definitely I hung out with American kids more. I'll tell you now, one of my closest friends in college is my roommate who is Russian speaking. And one reason why we're so close is because we have that cultural glue, I guess. But why those kids, the interesting thing is about those kids is that those kids, the Russian's not so good, and they're not reading Dostoevsky. I'm saying they're not, it's not even they're so, and they're born here, they're very Americanized, they're very, very assimilated. But I don't know why they still stick together, whether their parents are friends and they grew up together, or maybe I think it's just a similar kind of outlook on life that really connects them.
I have one last question. I'll end it, I guess. I recently met someone, I think I may have mentioned this to you in Talent, and both of you can answer this, and perhaps it was the people we were talking about from the Sephardic community, from
Caucasus.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So they were saying that there's almost racism between different Russian-speaking Jews from different places. Where does that stem from? Why is that? If you could just give a little bit of background to that.
Well, the Moscow tensions are the equivalent in the non-Jewish sphere. Right, that's right. Yeah, there's plenty of intolerance. Well, I mean, the intolerance happens everywhere, but amongst the Jews, that's the question in particular. Where does it come from? Well, these things arise among many groups. I understand that in Israel, where the absorption of Moroccan Jewry was not entirely smooth. So to my mind, that's the analogy. I don't know if it's helpful. I didn't answer the question. I provided an analogy. So I said, okay, perhaps I could guess it this way. People, right? The general snobometer in Russian geography was basically the further north you are, the better you are. So if you're from St. Petersburg, you're king of the hill. Muscovites